Neville Goddard. The Creative Use of Imagination is the name of a 1952 book on Wikipedia where you look at and find Neville Goddard, which it is, and it happens to be this book here, which is shy 2 chapters that exist in this by Margaret Ruth Broome, The Power of Unlimited Imagination, Margaret Ruth. And this is 2 chapters shy, so what I'm going to do is include the 2 chapters from this book as we go across those. Let's see. They are a collection of San Francisco lectures that Margaret obviously transcribed and then put into a book. 1952, I'm assuming, is when it came out. So we'll title it The Power of Unlimited Imagination. Again, go to Wikipedia. You'll see it as The Creative Use of Imagination. Opening quote, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand." All there will ever be to know and understand. Albert Einstein. Preface. This book, as all things, came into being because of a thought acted upon. This is by Margaret, by the way. Neville left us October 1, 1972, and since that time I have invested many hours transcribing the hundreds of tapes I have of his lectures. Neville explained that the arc of life contained and could be understood on 3 levels: the literal, psychological, and spiritual. The lectures that are available deal mainly with the spiritual. However, because those who are now hearing his words on tapes and reading his lectures did not hear him speak on the second or psychological level, I realized the need to provide that psychological plane as a foundation for the higher. I realized the need to provide that psychological plane as a foundation for the higher spiritual level. And so the thought was planted in my mind, what if there were some lectures that taught this principle on a practical level? Wouldn't it be wonderful if such a series could be found and made available for those who would desire it? And then one day I received a letter from a lovely lady in San Francisco who said she was moving into a retirement home and wanted to send me some notes she had from Neville's lecture series in San Francisco in 1952. These notes constitute this book. Hence, the reason it's on Wikipedia as 1952 publication is it's actually from fast forward past his passing, which was in 72, I believe. All right. I had a thought. I had a thought. Wouldn't it be wonderful if and acted upon it by feeling the thrill of a thought's completion? I have never met the lady or heard from her since receiving the notes, but I have proved once again that imagination fulfills itself. The living proof is in your hands. Now let me tell you a bit about me. Born and raised in a small town in Kansas, I moved to California in 1942 as a good Protestant. But I had a hunger that no organized religion could fill, so I drifted from one belief to another, seeking yet not finding what I was searching for, possibly because I did not know what it was. Then one day I heard a man called Neville, and I knew that although the outer me did not understand his words, the inner me was singing the Alleluia chorus, for I had found the cause of all life. That my very thought mixed with feeling was an imaginal act that created the facts in my world. I remember the first night I lay in my bed and dared to claim, I am God. Afraid that the ceiling would crash down on me, I quickly covered my head just in case. And when nothing happened, I gathered more courage and set out to prove for myself that imagination could create reality. I did not believe it could, and I wanted to prove Neville wrong. If anything in all of this, if you are upset about what these words are saying in any of these videos of Neville's lectures, any of it, just try and prove it wrong. It's the best thing you could do. That was back in 1964, and I haven't succeeded yet. Not all of my imaginal acts have come to fruition, but I now know that the fault does not lie in the teaching, but in my belief in myself. And as I have grown in my belief and trust and faith in what I have imagined, I have gained confidence in my own wonderful human imagination. Several years ago, I put together a group of lectures of Neville's and called the book Immortal Man. At the time, I was afraid to change his words, even though I felt I could make the message clearer if I did. Shortly after its publication, I turned to self one night and asked, is it all right to change the words as long as I do not change that meaning or the meaning? I know that if truth were told so that it could be understood, it would be believed. I know your words are true, Neville, but I think I can make them clearer. I fell asleep, questioning myself, and in the night I had this dream. I am on my way to work. As I enter the building, I see directly before me a beautiful restaurant whose tables are filled with diners enjoying their meals. Neville is standing next to a fireplace speaking to a group nearby. Thrilled to find him there, I am eager to show him the book of his lectures I had just published and question him regarding the change of words. But as I turn to take the case I am carrying into my office, get the book in return, he glances up and catches my eye. Instantly changing my mind, I turn and go directly into the restaurant to join him. But when I arrive, I discover that he has vanished, leaving the ladies to tell me that he is gone and will never return again. Heartsick, I return to the lobby with its hard tile floor. Suddenly, the case I had been carrying fell from its handle. The moment it hit the floor, the case opened, my book fell out and lay open at its center seam. As I looked down in horror, I saw that I had been carrying a briefcase that contained a tape recorder that had turned on due to the fall, and Neville's voice was ringing out loud and clear. Embarrassed, I stooped down to turn off the volume, only to discover that all the knobs had fallen off the machine and there was no way for me to turn them off. As I tried to push the case over to the far wall in order to pick it up, I awoke with those words ringing in my ears. I am in you as you. I am in you as you. From that moment on, my fears have vanished, and since that time, I have gained confidence in my writing. These are Neville's words, Neville's thoughts, yet we are so closely woven in the tapestry of thought that the words are now mine. The lectures you will read are Neville's words, yet they may not be the exact words he spoke back in 1952. The material I had to work with were notes someone had taken in shorthand, transcribed, and duplicated. I have taken the notes and elaborated on them. The words are true, hopefully understandable enough so you can test them and discover for yourself that when the truth is applied, it is made alive by a spiritual experience. Always bear in mind that when Neville speaks of man, he is speaking of generic man, woman, in parentheses. Man is the external world. The natural man, while imagination is the internal world. Man is the external world, the natural man, while imagination is the internal world, the man of spirit. God, imagination, became the natural man that the man of nature would become God, who is spirit. Always think of yourself as two beings, one who sees through the organs of sense and the other who sees through the mind of imagination. And always remember God's name as he revealed it to Moses. I am. That is who I am. And by this name I shall be known throughout all generations. I am that I am. I, the Trinity, in unthinkable origin, am God the Father. And I, in creative expression, am the Son. For imagination is born of consciousness. Therefore, I, in universal interpretation, in infinite immanence, in eternal procession, am God, the Holy Spirit. Margaret Ruth Broome. And if you've seen pictures of Neville, you don't have to look very far. She's that gal that's with him smiling, and it looks like it's in the latter time of his life. And she's has like a raised hairdo. That's Margaret Ruth Broome, I believe. If I'm wrong, correct me, please. Okay, moving on. The power of unlimited imagination. Chapter 1, Your Infinite Worth. The purpose of these talks is to bring about a psychological change in you, the individual. Humanity, understood psychologically, is an infinite series of levels of awareness, and you, individually, are what you are according to where you are in the series. Consciousness is the only reality, and where you are conscious of being psychologically determines the circumstances of your life. The ancients knew this great truth, but our modern teachers have yet to discover it. There's only one substance in the world. Our scientists call it energy, while Scripture defines it as consciousness. We are told that the universe was caused by water, but if this is true, then it could not evolve into anything but water. But if the basic substance is energy or consciousness, it can be made to manifest itself as iron, steel, and wood, to name but a few. Let's name some others: gold, silver, bronze, lead, anything. Man, seeing a variety of forms, thinks of numberless substances, but what is seen is only a change in the arrangement of the same basic substance, consciousness. You got to really dig where this is taking off with and from. You got to dig the path we're going on right here. Ephesians tell us that all things, when admitted, are made manifest by light. All things, when admitted, are made manifest by light. The word light recorded here means awareness, consciousness. The state the individual admits into his consciousness is the cause of one man being rich and another poor. That's the individual. The poor man admits to being in the state of poverty by saying, I am poor. Just as the rich man admits wealth by saying, I am rich. Anything you, an individual, claim yourself to be it good, bad, or indifferent, right or wrong, that's in parentheses, must be made manifest in your world, for by claiming the state you have consented to its life. Anything you, an individual, claim yourself to be must be made manifest in your world, for by claiming the state you have consented to its life. There's only one cause, and that is consciousness. Your consciousness is the center from which your world mirrors and echoes the state you presently occupy. Now, a state can be defined as all that you believe and consent to as being true. So if you want your world to change, you must determine what you want to accept and consent to as true before you can change it. To arrive at a certain definition of self, you must begin by uncritically observing your automatic reaction to an event, for your reaction defines your state. And you can, without getting out of your chair, rebuild your world by changing your level or state of being. Without getting out of your chair, you can rebuild your world by changing your level of being. This is all about being. What are you being? This is done by observing yourself uncritically as you react to life uncritically. If you do not like the circumstances of your life, acknowledge the cause. That is you. Sometimes not easy to deal with that. Be willing to admit that the circumstances are only objectifying what you are conscious of. Then change your consciousness and your world will change. Sounds very simple. If you react to that which is being objectified, you bind yourself to a certain level of awareness. But if you refuse to react, the thread is broken. Watch your reactions. Stop being conscious of something unlovely. For every unlovely thought causes you to walk in psychological mud. Now that one sentence could shut down a large percentage of what's coming across your YouTube feed called news. It could shut down the entire news agency if only a small percentage of the population were aware of this sentence. Stop being conscious of something unlovely. For every unlovely thought causes you to walk in psychological mud. Only think on lovely things. Is that difficult? How hard is it? If you have all this in front of you, all this junk happening, and you're reacting emotionally to it, you're in the depths of what you're reacting to. You're so deep, you can't even see that you're in it. You have to stop, go in your closet, shut the door, turn off your senses, back off, only think on lovely things. If you see a negative over here, stop and think on lovely things. It is up to you to take that conscious control and make the conscious effort and change, get out of the psychological mud. Change your thinking, change your life. There's many books. There's wonderful books with that title, as a matter of fact. Rather, identify yourself with beauty, with love, which is the Christ in you, and you will ascend the infinite level of your own being and change circumstances of your life. You will change the circumstances of your life. Your state of awareness, like a magnet, attracts life. Steel, in its demagnetized state, is a whirling mass of electrons. But when the electrons are faced in one direction, the steel is magnetized. You do not add to the steel to make it magnetic or take anything away to demagnetize it. This same principle is true for you. You can change your world by rearranging your thoughts and having them travel in one direction. And that is toward fulfilling your desire. Remember, all that is, I am God who sent you and me here. We are in self-concepts. We have self-concepts with which we are imagining inside of. If you say, I am poor, that's your self-concept. If you say, I am rich, that's your self-concept. If you say, I am married, that's your self-concept. It doesn't matter what's on your outside of your current surroundings. What you claim and state as your I am becomes your next concept. Period. You can change your world by rearranging your thoughts like a magnet, like magnetized steel. Everything's in one direction, so therefore the magnet. Rearranging your thoughts and having them travel only in one direction. And that is toward the fulfillment of your desire. If you have a desire and you're putting all of your effort and you're ignoring all the crap out here, all this noise, then you're putting your thoughts in this direction. You're becoming like a magnet. You're becoming where the electrons get in one direction and become a magnetic force, a propulsive force at that. Magnets and iron, and I had the luxury of becoming an electrician, and you get to study magnetism, and you get to study what goes on in copper and abundance of free-flowing electrons and all this other stuff. But we are the same thing when you consider electricity travels through us because we have so much water in us. And the percentage is up there. It's like 80% we are made of water. Again, why I drink so much water. But electrical force can come through our body because it's made of a conductive material. Well, that conductive material is under direction of your thoughts. So whatever this is experiencing is because of the direction you put these thoughts. If you want this to be magnetic, then you take your thoughts and you focus them in a direction of your desire, making the subconscious impression. So all these electrons that are inside of your body, because it's made of water almost entirely, are now in a direction because you're aimed with your thoughts without this noise. You shut that off and you get all of your focus in one direction and you make that subconscious impression. It doesn't matter what it is. I am in love, happily married, raising a family. Even though your senses show you that that's not actually happening right now. But if you focus on that desire that's within you, and there's only a special reason it's there, is because it exists. You get all your electrons focused in that direction, you're fulfilling your desire by aiming right at it, by going straight towards it. You make that impression, objectification. Your desires become reality. It sounds simple, but you have to practice it continuously because every little tiny thought is making a change. Every single time you think about your desire is having an impact on whether or not you're going to arrive. Every single tiny thought. Oh, it's not possible. Nope, not true. Oh, it's going to happen to someone else before it happens to me. Nope, not true. But you need to open up a crack here. Oh, I can do this. I think it's possible. You know what? Why not? Why don't I put those on my list? Why don't I put these ideas on the list in my mind that I am going to objectify those? I'm going to get married. I'm going to have my honeymoon in Hawaii. I'm going to come back. We're going to walk across the threshold of our new home. We're going to start having babies and we're going to raise a family. Everything I've ever dreamt of is going to happen. In fact, I've heard you can make a vision board. I've heard if you write it down as a goal, it adds a lot of juice. And if there's any testimonial in the room right now, that would be me. And someday I'll show you the piece of paper. Written goals are very powerful. And if you and your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse sign your name, I'll make a video about it separately. But writing a goal down is quite impactful. And if you sign your name after it as well, you will not believe the power of it. But we're sticking to the fact that Neville's not saying you have to go get glue and make a vision board. He's not saying you have to go get a pen and paper. He's saying you just have to change here. You only have to change your psychological thoughts to go in a direction towards your desire. That's even less work. Why do I got to cut pictures out of a magazine? You don't have to, or print them off the computer, whatever. You don't have to do any work. The beauty of this material is it's guiding you towards fulfillment without any work involved. There's absolutely almost zero work, except for changing the psychological direction of trying to fulfill your desire by aiming towards it. If my desire is to be married, have a family, and live in a new home, then I should be looking at bridal magazines. I should be looking at better homes and gardens. I should be looking at how to plant these flowers with those flowers. I should understand the word perennial. I should be all involved with all of these things that go into making a happy home. What are those things? Those are the direction of my desire because that's what I want to fulfill in my new objective. I want to be happily married. Okay, what does it take to be happily married? Well, first, what do you think of the opposite sex? If it's in fact what you're going after, if you're a female and you want to be married to a man, what is all men are? Have you forgiven them? Remember, forgiven, the word means imagined, lovingly. Have you imagined lovingly for that one out of the millions that you're going to actually marry someday? Have you imagined lovingly for them? Because they actually are the source of the other side of that equation. A happy marriage takes two, and it doesn't care. This doesn't break down into, it can break down into masculine and feminine. Whatever that relationship is consisting of, it's a masculine and it's a feminine, typically. In this case, you're a female and you want to be married to a male and you want to have a happy, loving marriage and be in love and your heart sing the joys of heaven with trumpets. You want to have that experience. You've got to start somewhere. And one of the first places to start is making sure you are forgiving of that other side of the equation. If you're going to be happily married to a man, if you're a woman, all men are obviously loving, caring, and nurturing. All men are loving, caring, and nurturing. I am happily married to my loving, caring, nurturing husband. Doesn't matter how you use that, but you've got to change this programming if you want, in fact, to get to that subjective impression and objectify that reality for yourself. You've got to start somewhere and start impressing what you want into your subconscious. You can't have a belief that all men are whatever. I don't even want to think of negative words, but you might have some. If you answer this, all men are, and you're answering in the negative in any way, shape, or form, then you're already in a place where you haven't forgiven them. There's a lot of wonderful scripture that has to do with trespassing. You know, our Father who art in heaven, forgive those who trespass against us as we forgive them. As we forgive them means to imagine lovingly. All men are loving, caring, and nurturing. If you're a male and you want to be married to a female, all women are loving, caring, and nurturing. What does that really mean? Man equals manifestation. Well, we're just forgiving our manifestation. Everything is you pushed out. The whole world out here is you pushed out. Woman, women, man, manifestation. It's all you pushed out. All you're forgiving is that part of the illusion that you're going to deeply engage with. You're only ever becoming in love with you because you is pushed out. Everything is you pushed out. So in this self-love concept, it really always it's aiming back at you constantly. So if you're in love with your spouse, it's because you're in love with you. And it's when you can admit love, loving, caring, nurturing. All men are loving, caring, nurturing. Loving, caring, nurturing. You've got to be okay looking in the mirror, get out of the shower, you get in the mirror. I love you, your name. I love you, your name. I love you, your name. It's okay to be married. It's okay to be in love. All men are, all women are. I love you. Okay, so you're building up the focus of maintaining the desire and arriving at the actual target. You're going to make that impression by doing what I'm telling you. You'll make the impression. You'll make it much faster with this. This is not that difficult. This isn't books, and this isn't having to read and go to colleges for decades and get degrees. This is simple. With what I'm saying right here, it's if you just do it, you will arrive at the subconscious impression and you'll be objectified in your reality very quick. These few little tiny things right here will get you there very, very fast. Sometimes there might be blocks. Well, that's a whole other subject for another day. But if you're coming up against some kind of blocks, you've got guilt, you got shame, you got these other things, these other psychological turmoils. They have to do with time. They have to do with memory. These things have to be worked through for you to get to your desire. And if this desire is in fact a place you're going to arrive to get there, you're going to have to work through those blocks one way or another. I suggest working through it in the best, quickest way possible that I have found is the Neville material. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you that any advice that you should seek. If you're going to seek a doctor, etc., psychology, psychiatrist. But the point is, get through the blocks. If you have blocks, find a way to get through those blocks. They're the only thing holding you back. I have had many, and I'll make a video on that. But the point is, they must be targeted first for you to arrive at your objection. Okay? Let's move on. Watch your reactions to life. For any change in the arrangement of your mind can be detected by self-observation, will cause a change in your outer world. It is important to learn to be passive to that which is unlovely and acceptable to you. Remember, we're talking about reaction. Watch your reactions to life. Any change in the arrangement of your mind that can be detected by self-observation will cause a change in your outer world. It's important to learn to be passive to that which is unlovely and unacceptable. I don't even hear it. In that way, you are awakening the dynamic one within. And when you find your inner being, you will discover that the qualities you condemn in others are really, I got to show my hand, are really in yourself. Remember, you're pointing out others, there's 3 pointing back at you. Funny how your body has the truth. Then you will know the secret of forgiveness. For as you forgive yourself, the others are forgiven. I didn't even read ahead. I didn't mean to take the thunder away from Margaret here or Neville, but it is true. Forgiveness is a lot of this is woven in. All things, not just a few, all things are made manifest by the light, and everything manifested is light. That is a very fascinating study, even in the scientific world of universities, etc., and people who study the idea of light. When you get into it, like I have a friend who's very creative, he's an artist, and he does painting and other creative things, and we talk about light and color, and it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing how we react to color. And that color is actually a depiction of light. It's a fascinating subject. But back to the subject here. All things are made manifest by the light, and everything manifested is light. The moment you consent to a thought, it is made manifest. The moment you consent to a thought, it is made manifest. If you're consenting to being married and happily in a family with your husband, it's made manifest because you consent. It could not come into being unless you consented to its expression by being aware of it. The universe moves with motiveless necessity as it has no motive of its own. Rather, it moves under the necessity of manifesting the arrangements of the minds of men. This teaching is to awaken you to your light, and the awakening begins by self-observation. Just listen to what your reactions are. Listen to your reacting to your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend. How are you reacting? How are you reacting to your kids? How are you reacting to your boss or bosses or coworkers? What are your reactions? If you have a secret affection for living in the mud of self-pity and condemnation, your world will mirror those feelings. But if you will arrange your mind and live in the heavenly feeling of harmony and love, your manifested world will change. Very, very true. Again, no one's coming in to do this for you. You are the only one who can do it for you. If today you would spend 5 minutes in uncritical observation of yourself, you would be surprised to discover how deceitful you are. It's a terrible shock, I know, but every shock of this type will let in the light of awareness. And life is an ever-increasing illumination. What are the the Germans have a phrase. It's a saying in German when I first learned it. Too soon old, too late wise. That is a bunch of BS. That saying is a giving up saying because it's admitting defeat. Oh, well, I can't. But it is a funny saying because people could easily buy that. If you bought that saying, throw it away. It's trash. It's funny. It's funny to me because I can see it in some people, and it's you got to shake that out of there because life is an ever increasing illumination. Wisdom comes at the right time. Your mind goes from where your feet were when you were a little kid. Your mind travels up your body, and sooner or later it comes up in here, and conscious awareness arrives here, and there's quite an illumination. As the light comes in, you become more and more conscious of who you really are. There's only one cause for the phenomena of life. Only by observing your own consciousness can you discover the cause of what is happening to you. There is no greater tyrant than the belief in a secondary cause. Try not to sneeze. Let that tyrant go by remembering the one and only substance, the only cause, which is awareness. And immediately change what you are aware of. Awareness. Only by observing your reactions to life can you find yourself. And remember, as long as you react as you do, the same things must confront you. For all that you admit to is made manifest by your consciousness. And everything you manifest is your consciousness. Wow. End of chapter. Wonderful. Your infinite worth. You can definitely tell a different flavor of, you hear Neville in the middle of it, but you can tell a different joining, but that's okay. She meditated and Neville gave her pretty much explicit permission, it seems, implicit of course, but with the dream, I'm an avid dreamer. I love it, lucid dreaming, etc. And yeah, dreams are very powerful. Okay, some post words of the chapter. Stop walking the world in the mud and living in its basement. Stop walking through the world in the mud and living in its basement. Your soul is made up of all that you consent to. Lose your soul on one level and you will find it on a higher level, defined differently. Always examine yourself uncritically. For the moment you become critical, you automatically justify your reactions and associate yourself with the thing observed. Fascinating. Wonderful pieces. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Margaret, she left the party recently at 100 years old. I think in 2023. I think I just saw that recently. Wonderful. I mean, 100, a centenarian. That is that's a great thing. And man, I did not know that she was still around, but that's wonderful. I would love to see any kind of interview of her in her last decade. But yeah, wonderful. Okay, end of chapter. Chapter 1, your infinite worth, the power of unlimited imagination. We'll see you in the next chapter.